Hi guys! Did you miss me? I know it's been a little while, but the thing is, my whole family got COVID, including my toddler and my little baby and me and my husband. So we've been a little bit under the weather, but things are looking up now. I think I still sound a little bit congested, but I feel good again, thank goodness. So sorry about my disappearing act, but I'm back and yeah. Today, I'm going to be reading some r/MaliciousCompliance. Yes, here we go. Is it okay if I fire you? In my late high school, early college years, I had a job doing telemarketing work during winter and summer breaks. While it was boiler room cold calling, we primarily were soliciting donations for agencies that had contracted us to do the work, so it felt less scuzzy. Think police departments, fire departments, etc. We kept a portion of the donations for operating expenses. Everything over a certain threshold went directly to the receiving party. Everybody wins. I enjoyed the job as the scripts were simple, I was allowed to read a book and such between calls, and a number of my friends were also employed there so we could hang out during lunch breaks. The pay was a decent chunk above minimum wage at the time, so it was a good gig. I also had a knack for it, and at one point was 5th in sales across all their sites they had in operation, and 2nd in our building. One summer, while driving to work, my car promptly dies, with no warning, and I'm left stranded on the road. As you do in this situation, back before cell phones for poor college students were a thing, I walk to the nearest house and ask to use the phone. I call my dad, who starts driving to get me, and call my work to let them know I'll be late. My boss says fine, and that he will chat with me when I get in. Father shows up with my mother in 2 cars. I take the extra and he begins the arduous process of towing my car back to the house. This involved tying a rope to the front of the car and to the back of his vehicle and crawling back home so he could fix it himself. I've been in that back car and do not envy my father being in the back car with only 10 feet of space between him and the car my mother was driving. But I'm off to work. I arrive to work, clock in almost an hour after the start of my shift, and I'm promptly told by the front receptionist that my boss would like to see me in his office. So I head on back. Beginning details complete. Cue the start of the malicious compliance story. My boss and I have always had a good rapport. I'm a good worker, get good reviews, and he and I have some similar interests outside of work we can chat about occasionally. When I arrive in his office, he's shuffling some papers around and has laid out a few documents facing me. As close as I can recall, this is the conversation that followed. Hope everything worked out with the car. Glad to have you here. Couple of things I need to discuss with you. First of all, as I'm sure you're aware, being more than 30 minutes late to work is considered a Class C violation. 3 classes from C to A, C being the least egregious. If insufficient time is given prior to the occurrence. This is your first violation, so I'd like to talk to you about what happens next. I'm sweating at this point. I've never been talked to about being out of order on anything while working here, and getting my first violation scared the heck out of me. So I'm sitting there white-faced, and he continues. No official write-up or anything occurs for a first violation, or even the first few Class C violations, but it is manager's discretion on the punishment, depending on past behaviours. Now, you are a good employee, and I've put into corporate a few times to give you a raise, but because you only work during your school breaks, it's denied as you aren't considered full-time. So, the papers I have here are your termination papers, and an offer letter I'd like to extend to you to hire you back on again. So, in short, before I file these, I'd like to ask, is it okay if I fire you? So we go through the process of him firing me, which then allowed him to extend an offer to me to rehire me at roughly a 25% increase in pay, since he could justify to corporate the bump he was hiring someone with experience. In talking with him, he let me know it was something he occasionally did to the high school and college workers to get around the corporate's policy of not allowing raises to people that didn't work 1,000+ hours in a year. It was his own way of being maliciously compliant with a policy that didn't allow him to reward some people that he thought deserved it. He had been apparently waiting for me to do something that he could technically fire me for. The way their back-end systems worked, it wouldn't even show up as a break-in service, since the firing and hiring happened on the same day. And since I never worked more than the minimum 1,000 hours each year, I didn't have any tenure or anything to be worried about losing. The laugh he and the receptionist had when he walked me back to the front to introduce her to the new employee was enjoyable. And I've got a fun story to tell ever since. That's a really bad policy on the company's part. Like, just because you're part-time doesn't mean you can't be extremely productive for them. Especially someone that age, like, definitely that was the hardest they ever worked. Like, kind of my, like, late teens, early 20s time. Like, I worked so hard then. Like, I still work hard, but it's like you've got something to prove at that age. And, yeah. So, I don't know, this is a bad policy, but that manager's so clever for getting around it, and that's definitely someone that would be great to work for. Anyway, here's the next story. Get rid of my vacation? Have fun replacing me. I worked at a company that gave out exorbitant amounts of vacation. Anyone who worked there for 25+ years received 8 weeks of vacation and 2 weeks of personal time. This was a family-owned company, but rather large. We ran 3 shifts totaling 250+ people. Enter Jimmy. Jimmy was a grizzled old man. He started at the company when he was just 20, and now he was 63, and gave absolutely zero craps. Jimmy also knew how to make a specific part for our product, him and one other higher up in the office. One day, the plant owner comes out and announces he's selling to a corporation. He's older and ready to retire. He promises that there will be very little change and wishes us all well. The new company comes in and immediately goes after many of the great benefits we had. The first thing they do is cut everyone's max vacation down to 4 weeks and do completely away with personal time. Anyone who's maxed out had until December 31st of that year to use it up, and they wouldn't pay it out. They then go into the office and clean house, firing anyone who's close to retirement, including Jimmy's backup. But they also do away with one very important rule. You no longer have to get vacation approved. You can just call in and take it. Jimmy is pissed, and they know it. They realize he's the only one in the building that can do his job now, so they hire a new kid for him to train, most likely to permanently replace Jimmy. So Jimmy does what anyone would do. He calls in the first training day for the new hire and lets us know he's going to use all of his paid time off at once, and promptly takes 10 weeks off. We had a backstock of parts he'd made, so it wasn't too unnerving, but for 10 weeks Jimmy went and applied to other jobs, found one, and started. Fast forward 10 weeks, it's the day Jimmy is supposed to return. He doesn't. For 2 days they try calling him and even go to his house. He's nowhere to be found. Finally, on day 3, he calls and resigns, and they lose it. The parts he makes are specialized and patented by the original founder. You can't just hire someone off the street to make them. What eventually happened was they had to contract the original owner to come and teach some new hires how to make them. And when he found out what they'd done, it pissed him off. The last I heard, he charged them a 7-figure contract to teach how to produce the parts, and they had to pony up or close down. Moral of the story? Don't mess with people's vacation time. What did they think was gonna happen? Like, you'll just break the trust of all the employees, but, like, you desperately need someone? Like, that's so stupid. Like, you have one person who knows how to make this? One person. Like, That's absolutely the worst thing you could do. Like, they weren't thinking about running a business. They were just thinking about money. But you can't just cut corners to make money. You have to actually plan it out. If you plan it, then you can be consistently making money. Ugh. People are so stupid sometimes. Like, I don't know. Okay. Here's the next story. You can't continue working from home because you go idle and chat too often. As part of the plan to return to office post-COVID, my company has done a lot of redesigning of who can permanently work from home, who can hybrid, etc. I really wanted to work from home full-time. I hate the office with a burning passion. It's distracting, it's a long commute, there's no benefit to being there, so on and so forth. I'd just rather be at home. Well, when we thought May was going to be go back to office time, they started giving out the new designations. I got designated as in office full time. It made no sense to me. I work on a team of 8 people and each of us is at a different office somewhere in the country. I've literally never been to an in-person meeting or needed to do in-person work in 3 years at this company. Every single other person on my team got designated to work from home. So I brought it up with my boss and asked to work from home. When I started at this company and lived elsewhere, I got to work from home for 4 months before I moved, and the past 14 months during COVID have been at home. So 18 out of 36 months at the company have been work from home. What I was told is that I go idle too often in chat to trust to work from home. Basically, we have a company-wide IM system that shows you as available, idle, or in a meeting. If you don't touch your keyboard for 5 minutes, you show as idle. So they've decided to use this as a measure for who's working and who isn't. The thing is, like many people in many types of jobs, I don't have crap to do for a full 8 hours every single day. The amount of work I have to do on a typical day takes 3 to 5 hours of actual attention. There simply isn't something to do all the time. My performance numbers actually went up working from home. By all objective KPI numbers, I'm better at worker at home. In fact, in the KPIs that I don't flat out lead the team in, I come in second. There isn't work to do that I'm neglecting or procrastinating. When something comes up, I simply do it until it's done, or until I can't do anymore due to waiting on someone else, and then I stop. And I've done that method long enough that my work queue stays empty because I work to get my queue down to the point where something comes up, I can immediately address it and be done with it. But because I have other ways to spend my time in downtime instead of messing around online at my queue pretending to be working, meaning I show idle more often. I'm a worse worker apparently. I was told if it weren't for that, they would let me work from home. So, I wrote a 6-line PowerShell script that virtually inputs the period key every 4 minutes that starts running every day at 8 a.m. and stops at 5 p.m. So now I literally never go idle. I do the same amount of work and still read books, watch TV, and play video games on the side. But I have a shiny green check next to my name all day. Because of COVID complications, they eventually said no going back until after Labor Day. I just had a meeting with my boss and he said over this time they've noticed I go idle a lot less than I used to, so they're changing my designation to work from home. All because of the little icon in some software. This concludes my TED Talk on why low to middle level managers are the dumbest, most useless, do-nothing positions in all of corporate America. Ugh. And then it's another example of crappy idiot managers. I feel like Malicious Compliance has a lot of really bad manager stories. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed those r/Malicious Compliance stories read by me, Red. I'm happy to be back. I hope you're happy I'm back. Please give the video a like if you did enjoy it, and don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done that already. Thanks so much, guys. See you tomorrow.